Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. I really enjoy racing in Star Citizen. I'm not particularly good at it, but I still enjoy following it and simply knowing that it exists, that it is part of Star Citizen being a living, breathing universe, just like the real world, and not just a space combat sim. But Mastermodes has slowed space combat down, and the upcoming death of a spaceman makes crashing more meaningful. And so racers are justifiably concerned that their gameplay is being gimped because of the needs of space combat. Now, in my predictions video for this year, I predicted how CIG would resolve this dilemma because I felt that once they really thought about it, this solution would be self-evidently the best. But in the latest Star Citizen Live on ships, they were saying that they were going to adjust master modes to accommodate racing as well, and talked about changing the racetracks to make them challenging at lower speeds. Both of those are bad decisions and indicate that they haven't really been thinking about it deeply, so I'm going to take that prediction and reframe it as a recommendation along with analysis. Starting with the tracks. You do not fix racing by limiting the design of tracks. A good racing system works on all types of racetracks. And more importantly, just like the real world, most good racetracks have multiple types of sections. Straightaways, chicanes, hairpins, slaloms. So to say that you are going to fix a racetrack by, for example, taking away the long straightaways is breaking the racetrack, not fixing it. So the solution needs to make all forms of racing fun. So let's turn how to change master modes for racing. One word: don't. Combat and racing in the game are both intense activities where millimeters and milliseconds matter. Trying to tweak master modes to fit both will result in compromises that will fit neither well at the end. So, tune master modes for combat only. I'm not going to get into what further changes master mode still needs because there are people far more tightly focused on that than me. But then use an entirely different mechanism to make master modes work for racing that leaves the combat balance alone. And then what is that different mechanism? Well, it is performance components. Take everything that you might want to be different in master modes and make it work for racing, and then set performance components so that a craft with performance components does that. I'm not going to get into specifics about what those changes should be, but just like dogfighters, there are tightly focused racing players with that detailed insight. But wouldn't that just make performance components some sort of super meta? Well, just like the real world, there are also drawbacks to performance components that would never be acceptable anywhere outside of a racetrack. So those get included too. Just like in the real world, nobody uses a Formula One or NASCAR vehicle to do grocery errands. Yes, there are folks that make their cars look or sound like they're driving a NASCAR vehicle, but it's really just car cosplay. Under the surface, having it be a real race car would be neither practical nor legal. So that's the general scheme. Leave master modes tuned for combat, change performance components to make racing amazing, and add drawbacks to make it only desirable on the racetrack. Now, I'm going to get a little more into the details, but again, the actual values, of course, would come from playtesting and from people more solely focused on racing than me. First, performance engines. These essentially up the available thrust and top speed in SCM to the point where racing becomes exciting and challenging on the full variety of racetracks. Again, the exact percentage needed to reach that point will come from testing. So, what are the drawbacks? Well, just like the real world, they are incredibly noisy. Their ER and IR signatures are so huge that they can be seen far beyond any comparable craft. In fact, they produce so much noise that they interfere with their own ability to see and target distant craft. The second drawback, just like the real world, is that they produce tons and tons of heat. So a performance-grade cooler is mandatory to make full use of any performance-grade engine. So, performance-grade coolers. Their upside is that they can handle huge quantities of heat, particularly for short periods of time. The downside, just like the real world, is that they are extremely fragile. One hit point of damage and they are failing, which of course means that your performance engine is also failing. Moreover, even within ranges of heat that they can handle, Push them too close to the edge for too long, and they will be failing anyway. Which brings us around to performance shields and the role that they play. Performance shields generate little heat, so racers would like them just for that, but they suck at ballistic damage and they are nearly useless against energy weapons. However, they will block all collision damage above a small initial value. So slam into the side of the racetrack or an asteroid at full speed, and your cooler will be toast because they're so fragile, your engine will shut down because the cooler is slagged, and you might even have a few broken bones, but you will still be alive and ready for rescue, which on established racetracks will be promptly available. Think of performance shields as a combination of extremely heavy roll cage plus a Nomex suit, just like the real world. Now, this last part is optional. Have the performance mode cooler enable a new racing mode HUD that you can cycle between it and the normal spaceflight HUD. There really is only 2 or 3 things that you care about while racing. The rest is distracting clutter. So the racing dashboard, HUD, just has 3 elements: speed gauge, temperature gauge of the cooler, and the timer. And also, the temperature gauge can, sort of like the mining interface, have an indication of how much and how long you've been in the red zone, as an indication of how close everything is to being slagged. And that adds what I think is an extra dimension to racing. Just like in the real world, it is the skill of knowing exactly when and how much to push your car beyond its theoretical limits.
All right.
She could come apart. One way to find out.
Now, for an update on our giveaways, we have our special membership to help cover costs to have the channel have live CitizenCon coverage with its own giveaway for Hull C. And yes, I'll be giving away that colossal cargo container carrying craft, even if our live CitizenCon coverage has to be remote. Plus, the regular Grow the Channel ship giveaway for giving some lucky player the Zippy Zazzy Zathig Zephyr, the Zeus 2 cargo, and the marvelous multiplayer mining meta, the Arasta. 1 entry per video. Just be a member for automatic entry or subscribe and comment with the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the number of times I said, just like the real world, including just now. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.
Giddy up! Giddy up!
What's the lap record here, Bert?
158?
150 dead.